Call the meeting to order. Let's start with the flag salute. Vice Chair Scott Wilson.
If I could ask everybody to stand, put a hand over their heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Scott. Next up is our roll call.
Committee Member Anderson. Committee Member Farmbach.
Here.
Committee Member Nunn.
She's here.
Committee Member Uriarty. Vice Chair Wilson.
Here.
And Chair, no.
Here. Excellent. Now it is time for public comment.
Do we have any public comments on non-agendized?
We have none.
So you can dispense with reading of the public comment section.
Okay. Consent calendar?
Right, so then you'll have to read this paragraph because we do have consent calendar items.
Okay. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the committee request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the committee on items that appear on the consent calendar. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the committee secretary. Speaker cards will be called in the order received. All audio and visual use is prohibited. Public comments may also be submitted by email for inclusion into the record. Email comments must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments and submitted to the Old Town Local Advisory Committee at temeculaca.gov. All public participation is governed by council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. Perfect. All right, so let's move on to the minutes.
So real quickly, the way
Yes.
consent calendar works is these are considered routine items and don't have a staff report. So unless there's a request to present on consent calendar items, then you just take a motion and vote on approval.
Perfect. My fault. With the minutes, can I go ahead and have a motion to approve?
Approved?
All right, so motion to approve, all in favor? Any nays? Any abstains? All right, motion moves forward. All right. Do I read this whole thing too?
Yeah,
And the
so-
next one?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
know. I know it's a little clunky, but it's the way it has to be.
Perfect, I'm learning. All right, so on the business side, members of the public may address the committee on business items that appear on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the committee secretary. Speaker cards will be called in the order received. All audio-visual, again, is prohibited. Public comments may also be submitted by email for the inclusion into the record. Comments must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments and submitted to the Old Town Local Advisory Committee at temeculaca.gov. All public participation is governed by the council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution 2021-54. Do we have any public comments?
We'll go ahead and move to item number 2.
Oh, got it. All right. So Meet Your Metro Team is item number 2.
Yeah, so we just wanted to invite our Metro team up to the podium if they could, Metro Team Plus, actually, and just very informally, just to say hi, introduce themselves, and maybe give just a quick recap of what the Metro Plus team does and what each discipline's role is in that team. So take it away.
Good morning. I'm Sergeant Sandoval from the Metro team. I come from Riverside County Sheriff's Department, been here for about 15 years. Just got the position probably about 2.5 months ago. With me is members from my Metro team, Deputy Murrow, Deputy Cooper, and Deputy Grossa. So these are 3 of the 10 members of our Metro team, including me and a CSO. All of us, obviously, we are night dwellers, so this is quite early for us. So I was able to round up 3. But our Metro Plus team, I'll let them introduce themselves because it's a collaboration and a task force.
Hi, good morning. I'm Elsa Weigel. I'm the fire marshal here in the city. I've been here for almost 20 years now. We work side by side with RSO on the Metro Plus team. Fridays and Saturday nights here in Old Town, we do all the occupancy checks to ensure that everybody is complying with their CUPs and hours of operation, and the most thing is life safety. So that's our big thing here in Old Town. We've been doing it long enough now that there's a zero tolerance, and all the owners down there are fully aware of what we're doing. But other than that, we have a great team that we work with, and we've established a great working relationship with all the establishments here in Old Town.
Good morning. I'm Gus Gonzalez. I'm representing code enforcement. We do rotate, so it's not always me, but I'm there often. We are checking for zoning violations, noise ordinance, live entertainment without permits or license. So yeah, we're a good team here. Happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have a question, but just a comment. We really appreciate everything that you all do and helping make us safe. And thank you for your services. We appreciate it.
I concur with that, and thank you for showing up to the Old Town Mixer last week. We appreciated that. Sticky fingers, sorry. All right, if nobody else has anything, then thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right, agenda number 3, the presentation from the Temecula Community Services Department regarding Old Town events.
Hello, my name is Tracy Tominez. I'm the events coordinator for the Community Services Department. So today I'll be providing an overview for the events taking place throughout the remainder of the year. While we do a lot of events throughout the year, I'll be highlighting all of them. I'll kind of be skipping over some of the ones that take place outside of Old Town, but I did provide a printed list with a calendar of all events. So I'll just kind of go through this slide by slide, and at the end, if you have any questions about specific events, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, so our next event is actually this Saturday. It's going to be taking place right in front of City Hall in the Civic Center Quad in Town Square Park. This is a morning event. It's our Community Services Expo. It's really a chance to highlight our Community Services Department. This includes our staff, so they'll be representing each of our divisions and facilities, as well as our contract class instructors, which includes dance instructors, tennis instructors, and so on. Then the following weekend, we have the Temecula Rod Run. So as many of you know, this is including our Friday night cruise from 5 to 8 p.m. up and down Old Town Front Street, followed by the Show and Shine on Saturday, May 4th. This event takes place from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., where all the classic cars are parked throughout Old Town for display. A couple weeks later, on May 18th, we'll be hosting Culture Fest. This is our 3rd annual event, and it also will be taking place in front of City Hall. Then on May 25th, we will be hosting our Memorial Day concert. This event typically was held in front of the Civic Center, but this year we are moving it to the Old Town Community Theater. It's still a free event. However, you do need to register for your ticket online. As we head into the summer, we'll be hosting our Juneteenth celebration at the CRC Amphitheater. This will be a concert from 5 to 7 p.m. And then new this year, we are moving our annual summer concert series to City Hall. Over the past few years, we've kind of outgrown the space at the CRC Amphitheater, and based on discussion with community services staff, our fire department, and also the Riverside Sheriff's Department, we've decided, due to the number of attendants, it's best to relocate this to more of an open space. So these will be 5 concerts taking place throughout the summer, and as with all of our events taking place in front of the Civic Center Quad specifically, we simply close Mercedes Street in front of City Hall, kind of from the access road of City Hall to the 3rd Street alley, and then the Main Street Y, the Horseshoe. So People do still have access to Old Town. They'll just either need to kind of turn down 3rd or 4th Street or take Mercedes to access. So the parking structure is always open during these events. So as I mentioned, it'll be 5 concerts. We'll be doing 2 in June and 3 in July. So these concerts themselves take place from 7 to 8:30, but we will be setting up all the equipment on the front steps of City Hall and using that as our stage. And then we have our 4th of July parade and extravaganza. So the 4th of July parade will be taking place in Old Town on Thursday, July 4th. The parade kicks off at 10 a.m. sharp, and then this one is a lot smaller than our Christmas parade, which I'll reference a little later. This one is usually wrapped up by 11, and then we head on over to Ronald Reagan Sports Park for our fireworks show, and that takes up a majority of the day with the fireworks itself showing off at 9 p.m. In August and September, we have some more events. So over the past couple years, we've started working more with the Riverside Sheriff's Department in celebrating National Night Out. So this event, it's always the first Tuesday in August that we celebrate here in front of City Hall, and this is the chance for different divisions from the Sheriff's Department to come out and display their teams and also have some vehicles on display, so just another family-friendly event. The following month, we'll be hosting our National Preparedness Fair, which is a little similar, but we have more exhibitors out to talk about all types of preparedness, whether it's preparing for natural disasters or even, learning life-saving techniques. And then on September 11th, this is our annual remembrance event that takes place at the Duck Pond. So this always on the actual anniversary of September 11th with just a small ceremony over at the Duck Pond in the evening. A few more in September. Not all are taking place in front of City Hall, but we will be hosting our Cartoonapalooza Art Fest event. This has it's gone from being a 3-day event to a 2-day event. This year, we're gonna try out a 1-day. We will be doing setup the day before, but then the event itself will be in front of City Hall, and it'll be an all-day art festival. Then a couple other events that we do throughout September is our college fair at the Promenade Mall, and then also our Fit Fun Color Run, which takes place at Ronald Reagan Sports Park. And then we'll bring it back to City Hall with our Health and Community Resource Fair on September 28th. Heading into October, another new event. This will be our 2nd annual Temecula History Day event, and this event will take place at Sam Hicks Monument Park. That way we can be close to our friends at the museum and showcase all of what our history team has to offer. And then at the Friday before Halloween, we host our Halloween Carnival in front of the Civic Center. This has been a fun one ever since we moved it. This one, before I even started with the city, it used to take place at the hockey rink, and then it kind of grew to the parking lot over at the skate park, to the CRC, and then finally we brought it to our kind of events hub in front of City Hall. And there's been a few years where we've partnered with the merchants and kind of encouraged them to pass out candy. That way, we bring everyone to City Hall to participate in the games and the costume contest, but also encourage them to explore some of the restaurants and just see all of our friendly merchants. And then the Patriotic Salute to Veterans is a symphony concert that takes place here in the Civic Center Quad on November 11th. This one, while the main focus is the symphony concert, we also do our military banner presentations, which I don't know if many of you have seen. They're hanging up and down Main Street right now. We kind of switch them out depending on the event season, but we do have our military banner program, so it's a chance for our military veterans to apply for a banner. It's hung up throughout the year, and then at the Veterans Day event, we invite the families to come and we do the presentation of banners just before our symphony concert. And then ending the year with all of our holiday festivities, we host our annual Christmas tree lighting at the Temecula Duck Pond. This is always the Monday after Thanksgiving, and then we conclude the week with our Santa's Electric Light Parade, which is always the Friday after Thanksgiving. So this one, we start the parade itself at the intersection of Jefferson and Del Rio down by the McDonald's. So we kind of stage all of our entries there, and then they travel south from Del Rio, ending in Old Town. So this is always a fun one. I know a couple of you have participated as judges in our parades. Maybe we'll have a few more of you participating. And then we end the year with our New Year's Eve grape drop here at City Hall. And then I did want to mention a couple of our co-sponsored events. We have the new one, which is the Temecula Sunset Market, which takes place the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month here in the Civic Center. That one kind of takes place throughout the year, but they take a hiatus when our ice skating rink is in town. I didn't include that on here just because the dates usually change, but you can expect the ice skating rink to be set up from December through about the first week of January, and then the weekly farmers market in the 6th Street parking lot on Saturdays. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any comments.
Excellent, thank you. That is a very busy calendar. Any questions? Oh, go ahead. Brooke.
Thank you. I wanted to first thank you so much for putting this together. I know our chamber members will really appreciate this. The only thing that I would like to request in the future, maybe if you do have it, if you have the hours of the events. I know sometimes in planning way in advance, it's kind of hard to, put those down, but just knowing if it's a morning event or a midday or an evening, that might help as well. And then I just wanted to point out the College Fair. We always partner with the city on the College Fair. We get thousands of people that come into our town and go to the mall for this event, and it's a fantastic event. So if you do get a chance to go, and that's usually a morning to midday.
Yes.
I think that usually
Very
we
well
hold
attended. I know the mall
Yeah.
appreciates that event every year, especially that one had been virtual for a few years, so being able to bring
Yes.
that back was definitely a highlight for our team.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Scott?
Which of these events, in your opinion, outside of the Rod Run and the Grape Drop, bring in visitors outside of our local Temecula residents?
I would say definitely our Christmas parade, just because it is unique and a lot of people, even our participants itself, they're not all Temecula residents. Some are from Marietta. We've had as far as Compton's high school band come and participate. So I think that one, just because people are always looking for stuff to do for the holidays, I would say the Christmas parade is definitely one of them. 4th of July, I feel like depending on the day of the week that it's on, we may either have our Temecula residents who are going out of town somewhere, which then brings in the out-of-towners to us just to kind of participate in something. So I would say those two are probably one of our biggest ones. But we've even had, I would say this past year at the Halloween Carnival, we had someone say, I'm from Orange County and I came down because I wanted to be here for the Halloween Carnival. So some of them actually surprise you, but I would say 4th of July and Santa's Parade probably stick out the most.
Awesome, thank you so much.
And then my only question is, when you move the summer concert series to the quad, does that add to how many days Mercedes will be closed, or is that part of already the number of days that were planned closures?
So those are added just for like the calendar of our typical road closures. I would say there's only, well, with moving the Juneteenth and Memorial Day, that kind of removes 2 already annual closures, so technically it's adding 3 new ones. I will note that there are some weeks where it'll fall with the Sunset Market and the concert being the same week, so it would be closed from like a Wednesday afternoon to a Thursday evening. So it kind of adds, but all of these, I'll just let you know that we do quarterly presentations to council to kind of go over our events for this season, so those are approved quarterly, and then we do have our team who is in contact with a lot of the merchants in Old Town, and we also hand deliver flyers to notify all the merchants and residents so they're aware of what's coming.
Thank you, and that is actually true. I've seen you guys walk around. I know the merchants tell me they get them because I ask, make sure they get them, and so thank you, I appreciate that. It's just always nice to know ahead of time, and you're very good about giving it to us quarterly, so we all plan for it.
Yeah,
As long as we calendar it.
Mm-hmm.
So, excellent. I keep doing that. Any further comments?
Yes. So I know for the Christmas parade this last year, residents were given a parking pass for the parking lot, I think it was behind Penny Pickles. Does that guy start with you guys or?
Yes,
Okay.
so, and I'll be sure to either have Luke or Matt make sure that you have my contact information,
Okay.
just because I know you are kind of our ears on the ground and you can be in touch with everyone. So yes, that would be something that our events team kind of coordinates. Obviously, some of the events are tricky, with 4th of July and Rod Run, it's easier to have a place technically outside of Old Town, such as the 1st Street lot behind Roadway Inn. That's an easy one to kind of pinpoint as resident parking. With the Christmas parade, because the route goes all the way to, Old Town Front Street south of Santiago, it can be a little tricky, but that's definitely something that our team would handle and coordinate with the residents, which luckily we have you as one of our representatives now.
Yes, it was really invaluable for
Good.
a lot of my fellow residents to
Okay,
have.
well, we appreciate hearing that, because sometimes it's tricky to know if all the residents are aware and if they were able to access that, so that's definitely good to know.
It was Carlene and our
Yes.
apartment manager was very good at making sure everyone had their passes, everyone got everything printed out. And then my second question is, for Rod Run this year, are all the side streets going to be closed as well?
Yes, so
Okay.
on Friday night for the cruise, we'll start closing down the side streets and Old Town Front Street at 4 p.m. So for that, on Friday night, well, throughout the whole weekend, Mercedes Street is open. So for the cruise night specifically, we mainly put our hard road closures down at the bottom of the side streets at Mercedes. So technically, some of like for accessing 5th Street on the east side or 4th Street, that's still technically accessible on Fridays. There just will definitely be more traffic from Mercedes Street, since that's the only main access point. And then Saturday, because we do have cars parking on the side streets, all of those will be shut down with the closures.
Okay, thank you so much.
Quick, is it possible to get passes for the residents that will allow them to park overnight in the city's parking structure? Because parking is so minimized, even on a daily basis, that when we have these street closures, and some of them, we have single moms with babies, and walking that distance is really, really difficult. In addition, some of the tenants have brought to my attention that when the roads are closed for the parades, concurrent with when events are, and Mercedes is closed, they're trapped. They can't get in, they can't get out, and they're concerned about emergency health and safety issues and not being able to get timely attention. So I'm sure that's something you guys have already thought through, so maybe I could just, get some information so I can get back to them.
Yeah, definitely. And some of these concerns I can also address with the Sheriff's Department. We work very closely with their core team, which I'm sure you'll stumble upon at some point. They're our community outreach response and engagement team. So we work a lot with them for our events. So it's definitely something I can bring up to them, because they're the ones that are also working the events itself. So that way we can kind of be prepared if one of those emergencies were to happen. Can definitely address with them. And then as far as parking in the Old Town parking garage, that one I will also relay to them and to our maintenance team. Typically, we don't put any no parking signs in the lot for our events. We wouldn't be asking for anyone to be towed, but I'll definitely mention that to them. That way they don't try to tow anyone when, like if I give them a heads up that tenants are planning to park overnight, we'll make sure that none of them have any issues.
Yeah. Particularly since the signage says 1 hour parking
Yes.
between 2 a.m. and 7
Yeah, so yeah, I'll definitely communicate it to our team, and then if you want to let the
Okay.
residents know that they can, feel welcome to park there overnight during that event time, and I'll just relay that to our team to make sure that nothing happens, that there's no tickets or anything such as that.
Thank you, Tracy. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we appreciate everything that's happening in the next year.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, so agenda item number 4, long-range planning application number LR 23-0429, Mark Collins.
I'll go ahead and kick it off. I know this is only our second meeting, but this is jumping right into the meat and potatoes of why this this body was formed. Also, thank you, Tracy. That was a great presentation. I think you're probably going to be a fixture up here going forward. I can see it now, so just be prepared. The item we're going to talk about today, and I don't know if you can bring up the presentation. I'm going to do the intro here and then turn it over to Mark. But it's really about having a dialogue with this body about some of the alcohol and entertainment regulations that the council and the planning commission have been wrestling with. I know many of you have seen the joint meetings, and so if you reviewed that, thank you very much. I know it was very long, but it's very informative. Some of you were there. And so we want to talk about that today. Those decisions are coming before the Planning Commission and the City Council over the next few months. And so your input is invaluable and very timely, very, very timely. So go ahead, next slide. I'm going to go through this a little bit. Many of you have seen this slide before, but I always like to start my presentations with kind of like, why are we here? You know, it just kind of sets the stage, and just like at the joint meetings, I think the bottom line is we're here because Old Town is a success. We're going to be talking about some of the concerns and challenges, but Old Town is a success, and I think Scott and Visit Temecula Valley for providing this chart to us. But I think it just demonstrates how important the Old Town environment and community is, especially in terms of our economy and our tourism economy. You put it up against Pechanga and wine country, and you can see it's hanging in there with both of those, which is, when I saw this, was a little bit surprising to me. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, wow, this is real. So that's why we're here. It's a success, and that comes with some challenges, but that's what we're dealing with. Next slide, please. And I'm gonna share 2 slides with you, just because they were shared with the City Council and they were shared with the Planning Commission. You know, what's the consequences of the success? Obviously, this is probably no surprise to anyone, but calls for service to our Metro team and to Riverside County Sheriff and the Fire Department, they start around 10 midnight and they peak after midnight, and then they continue on even after 2 a.m. when all businesses are supposed to be either closed or not serving alcohol anymore. So that's really the challenge area that we've been dealing with. Next slide, please. And this slide too was provided by our Chief of Police at the joint meeting. And it really is the DUI data. Again, I don't think this is going to surprise anybody, but you know, the 376 DUIs citywide in 2023. The majority of the arrests for DUI were in Old Town. Again, not surprising, but important to note. 40% of the DUIs occurred within a 4-hour time span, so from 12 to 4 a.m. And that's what those red boxes intend to display on the chart. Per our RSO partners, 70% of all DUIs have a nexus to Old Town. And that's high. That's really high. And there were 80 injuries and 2 fatalities last year. So next slide, please. Again, this is just a slide to say, you know, the pandemic kind of shined some light on some things that were going on in Old Town that maybe had been going on before, but weren't so acute, and they really became high profile as everywhere else was shut down and everyone was filing into Old Town, which was good for business, and that's great, but it did kind of reveal some challenges that we have to deal with. Next slide, please. So I mentioned the 2 joint meetings. You're very well aware. From those meetings, 3 things kind of emerged as items that need to be handled, dealt with. First was the standardization of hours for alcohol sales, and we'll get into that. There was this concept of a new ABC license, a Type 90, which is for entertainment venues. And then, of course, this concept of potentially a pilot program for outdoor live entertainment. And these are the things we want to talk about today specifically. We're going to go through each one of them individually, have a conversation about each one individually before we move on to the next one. We want to run this, and I spoke to Julie beforehand about how to run this. We're going to hopefully do it very similar to a Planning Commission or City Council meeting where there will be a staff presentation. The committee can ask questions of staff. And then if we have any members of the public, which I don't see out there yet, but if there are, then we'll take comment from them, and then we'll come back after the public comment, and the committee can deliberate, discuss, and provide their direction to staff on your opinion. So, next slide, please. Is that it? All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Mark.
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow committee members. My name is Mark Collins. I'll be presenting this item. So we'll go ahead and jump right in here to our alcohol sales. Alcohol sales in Temecula are regulated by the municipal code through 2 primary mechanisms. By right, which would be for beer and wine sales with a bona fide eating establishment or restaurant. Conditional use permits are issued for distilled spirits and require food service.
So just, and I already warned Mark that I might be interrupting him a few times here, but can you go back? Yeah, there it is, by right. So by right really means You don't need a special permit for that. So if you open a business and it's a restaurant, you can serve beer and wine by right. You don't need a conditional use permit, you don't need a special permit from the city. A conditional use permit, which he's gonna get into, is more of a negotiated special permit, so to speak, that you need for particular uses or allowances.
Thank you, Luke. So what is a CUP? It is a contract with the city to allow specific land uses, forgive me, with restrictions. How does it work? It's a contract that lives with the land, not a specific business owner. So if a business applies for one and is approved for one, they do not own it. It lives with the land or the property owner. How does one obtain a CUP? It is a planning application that requires a public hearing, a statement of operations, and conditions of approval. What do you need one for? Specifically here, we're going to be talking about spirits or liquor sales. Presently in the city, we have a total, or within Old Town specifically, we have a total of 39 CUPs. To kind of break down for you, I'm not going to go over everything, but we have 39 in total. Of those 39, there are 17 CUPs within Old Town that allow alcohol sales until 2 a.m. And such CUPs will continue to operate without change. In a recap of our existing standards, presently there are no municipal code standards for alcohol service hours. As such, hours of alcohol sales have evolved inconsistently over time, and the city is looking to establish consistency moving forward. And a recap of the majority policy direction. The City Council and Planning Commission supported, the majority supported alcohol sales ceasing at midnight or 11:59 p.m. and directed staff to create a policy for future CUPs to cease alcohol sales at midnight. And then the primary question for this body to consider is their perspective on changing the municipal code to require all new and future CUPs with alcohol to end alcohol sales at midnight. This completes the standard alcohol hours portion of the presentation and would invite questions of staff from the OTLAC.
So this is where we would receive questions from the committee.
Does anyone on the committee have any questions about this proposal? Go ahead.
I believe I heard during the videos that I watched, the state of California allows businesses to serve alcohol till 2. And then we have already current CUPs till 2. Not everybody chooses to do that. In running a business, it's extremely difficult, particularly if you're in food, because the price of labor has gone up, the price of food, you name it, everything has gone up, including utilities, insurance. Part of me, though I would like to see things close at midnight, I wonder if it's fair to those, if California law says they can stay open, and if they're good players, to help them stay in business by allowing them the freedom to create their own success. I thought, okay, well, if we're going to be putting on some of these restrictions, because some of these data and the stats are pretty alarming. But what can we do? Can we, like a hotel does, ask Uber and taxi cabs to be standby so that people who want to get an Uber or can be encouraged to get an Uber and taxi cab, I mean, ideally they'd have a designated driver, but clearly they're not doing that either. Part of what I've heard is that because of the limit in overnight parking, they can't park their car. They don't have that option. Therefore, they have to drive home. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they had one more than they should, and then they're going to spend thousands of dollars on penalties, fees. So what if we made it easy for them to be safe and allowed them safe parking, had that community? I mean, we don't have to pay for them, but we can encourage them. I don't know if bartenders need a permit to serve or need proof of education of the safe methods and of detecting who might need to stop, but that to me is is something I would like to try to support safety rather than add to problems, add to the troubles. I have a son in the service industry, food business, And he said, stopping at midnight is not a bad thing. It could be a good thing. But then it creates an inequity, and it creates perception by a business owner that Temecula may not be business friendly, particularly if they're not going to be in conjunction with the laws of the state of California. So I'm neither one way or the other. I'll do what the majority prefers, but I'd like to see, to make Metro's job easier, I'd like to see if there's a CUP that says they have to close at midnight, get a red sticker and put it on the door or the window next to the entry. If they can stay open till 2, put a blue sticker so Metro can immediately see. I mean, they probably know them by heart by now, but be just to handcuff businesses trying to seed. I'm really, I need to think this through. It kind of concerns me.
I think I heard a couple questions in there, so if I could probably just address those. I think it's, obvious that we want to help business succeed. I hope that goes, we don't have to say that too much. It's just something that's known. Of course, we want business to succeed. To the fairness question, and a little bit more on how CUPs work. So when a business is going to start, it comes into the city and it says, I want to serve alcohol and I want to serve distilled spirits. We say, you need a CUP. And then we say, this begins the negotiation period for that particular business, because all businesses are different. So that's why all the conditions tend to be a little different. Ultimately, what happens is the business owner that is seeking that CUP agrees to the conditions of approval. And if those conditions of approval say 12 a.m. closing time, they have to agree to it or not. And if they agree to it, they agree to it. That's the deal between the city and the business. So while California allows businesses under their alcohol licensing program to serve till 2 a.m., they have to still come to the city and strike a deal with the city as to how they're going to operate using their state ABC license. And if the city, which is not the staff, it's the planning commission and ultimately the city council, says, and they agree, hey, business, city, we agree, you're gonna stop selling alcohol at midnight, then that is a contract, a deal that was struck. Yeah.
I understand.
I know sometimes it just gets confusing because I think that there's a lot going on. There's licenses at the state. There's the CUP at the city. What is the CUP? How does it all work?
I understand it. My question is if they don't say yes, then they can't get a business permit, right?
Well, they can get a business permit, but what a CUP is it's a discretionary approval of the city,
Right.
which means that the city's, and this sounds a little harsh, but it's true,
Yep.
is under no obligation to issue that permit.
I
So if they
understand.
can't strike a deal with the business owner,
Right.
the planning commission can just say no.
I understand. Is a CUP a recorded document that goes on to a preliminary title report?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No.
Because I've heard that there are businesses that purchased a business, but apparently didn't do their due diligence, and they thought they could be open to 2 because the state of California allows that, only to find out that they can't.
Yeah.
So, anyway, okay, I'm still putting thought to this.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Carlene. Scott, you had a question?
Just for sake of clarity, the current 17 businesses that have the CUP being open until 2 a.m., they're all required to serve food that entire time, correct?
If they are permitted as a restaurant, if that CUP came in as a restaurant, then they have a requirement to serve food up till at least half an hour before closing.
Because that's a big concern of mine. I mean, there's numerous studies, of course, that show that the alcohol absorption without food is so much higher and people are getting inebriated so much quicker. And I know that not all of our places are doing that. So to me, that kind of adds to the issue. So.
Any other questions? Brooke?
Actually, I have more of a comment. So with the 17 CUPs that can stay open till 2 a.m., I think there's been some confusion thinking, okay, if we approve the midnight, Old Town's going to be dark after midnight. And it's not if these 17 businesses are still able to stay open. So there still will be some nightlife in Old Town. So that's more of a comment. And then one of the things I got back from our members was, it is if there's an area that we could designate for Uber Lyft pickup in Old Town, that could really help possibly. Maybe it's on one end or the other, so that can make it really easy for if anyone overdrank that evening. Thank you.
I don't think that was a question, just comments. All right, no problem. Sabine?
So one of my question is, staying open till 2 a.m., is that even, I guess the word for be financially viable for this city? Because you're open longer. I know Captain Durham had stated he would want more deputies added on. That's added cost. And then I'm assuming, you have more cost for code enforcement, fire, keeping them a little more attentive to Old Town longer. But you do get increased revenue from sales tax. So how does that work out?
Yeah, so we've done preliminary analysis on kind of there's a lot of factors. There's qualitative, and then there's hard numbers to look at. If we just look at the hard numbers, just the fiscal impact, the cost of the Metro team, the cost of the Metro Plus team, all of the things that go into enforcement of the nightlife in Old Town, it's not generating money for the city. The city is subsidizing nightlife in Old Town on that metric alone. There are a lot of other benefits to tourism, and I think we all understand that. But if we just look at the numbers, Old Town is not producing a huge, kind of windfall for the city. It's actually upside down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then my only other comment would just be, I agree that if it does get extended to 2 by any reason, there needs to be better taxi, Lyft, Uber services, and there does need to be an option to park overnight in the city lots in the parking garage.
Anyone else? So I think my only question was, I have like 3. When you say amend the municipal code, that goes Old Town and citywide, right? Because I want to say this isn't just pertaining to Old Town only, because it would be anybody who asked to open up a restaurant and start to serve alcohol in Temecula, the city proper, or is this really Old Town only? I guess I want to make sure.
Well, that remains to be seen.
Okay.
So that will be something the Planning Commission and the City Council decide on. The purview of this committee, obviously, is to what do you think about Old Town?
This will just be Old Town, because
I think the intent is that it would be citywide. That's the broader intent.
Okay.
But I can't say that for sure.
Right.
And we'll just be talking about Old Town here
yeah.
today.
But I wanted to know if what we say here, does that affect everybody? Because it is, but you can just make this code fresh for Old Town.
Whatever you guys say here is not necessarily going to impact the rest of the city.
Perfect. So this is just Old Town. Perfect. And then I think the second one was, only because Sabine had said, if we decide to extend, right now, if they apply for a CUP for alcohol, spirits, they can already request 2 a.m. Doesn't mean you'll approve 2 a.m. It just means they can request it. Whatever we decide here to recommend to you, what we're saying is midnight will be the only request they can do. They will no longer be able to request 2 a.m.
They can request whatever they want.
But
if it goes into the municipal code, it's no longer a negotiated item.
That's what, okay.
It becomes a municipal code requirement.
Got it.
Yeah.
Where it's just midnight. Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, so I think now is the time. Any other questions for the committee? All right, so then I think now is public comment.
Do we have any?
We have none.
Oh, there you go.
Well, that makes them, okay. So then now I think it's just deliberation, what our thoughts are and what we would like to recommend. I think I start down the line, correct?
You do it however you would like.
All right. I think I'll start with Sabine, if that's okay. Go ahead. What do you think? What are your comments and thoughts?
My general feeling so far is I feel like it should probably stay towards midnight. I just think, numbers-wise, safety-wise, we already have that time between like midnight and 4 a.m. And if you're serving alcohol until 2 a.m., you're finally kicking people out of bars at 2:30, 3 o'clock sometimes. And then that just extends those hours of where you have those high calls and those DUI arrests. So that would just be, just my biggest thing, safety for everyone else, for residents, and I think it should probably stay at midnight.
Thank you. Brooke?
Yes, so I had the opportunity to survey our chamber members who are in Old Town. We had 16 of them reply to the survey. And one of the questions was, if alcohol service stops at midnight, do you anticipate a decrease, increase, or no change to your revenue? 12 out of the 16 said no change to their revenue. So I feel like our members had a chance to speak, and the majority of them really were in favor of the 12 a.m. shut off. So I think that we'll be leaning in that direction.
I support a universal closing at 12 o'clock midnight.
All right, so Carlene?
I am in support of midnight, but I would still like to say I would like to have more services available to decrease the DUIs. The parking opened up, the Uber cab services, keep our public safe by allowing them to stay off the street. Right now, they can't park overnight.
Thank you. Scott?
I'm in favor of having it stop at midnight, and I think some of the biggest issues to me, I mean, obviously safety, but you look at not only the incidents that happen between 12 and 2, but it's staggering to me the incidents that happen from 2 to 4. Because this is, everything's closed, and this is just a group of people staying down here causing trouble. And guess what? You'll be surprised that the people who are here between midnight and 2, not totally, but in most cases, one, it's not our visitors, and two, it's not our residents. So these are people coming from surrounding cities coming into the area, and I feel like it's more causing trouble. I think the world of our Metro team, we just do not have the infrastructure to deal with this in this area. And we're still, for Temecula, Pechanga's open 24 hours. They do have the infrastructure, so people can go party there all night long, and they're set up for that. They've got the forces, and they've got the people, so I would like to see it close at 12. Again, there's still 17 businesses that will have it available, so it doesn't stop.
All right, so I think I would be remiss to say if I didn't tell you that Old Town businesses would like to see a 2 a.m. I would be remiss to say if I didn't say that. I understand that 17 of them will still have what they have at 2 a.m. I do know that last call for everyone is usually at 1:30 a.m. and then they stop serving exactly at 2, at least I hope. I would say that I agree with everyone that we need to address the overnight parking, because I think that sometimes we do make that mistake. We do take that one drink and we are not allowed to park. So it does make it very difficult to figure out what to do. We can Uber, but then we're going to pay for anything else if our cars get towed. So let's look at that, because I don't know where those parkings might be available. Maybe make it more prominent that you can park here if you need to. And then I think the other one is responsible serving and making sure that we think about that. So I would be remiss to say if I didn't at least mention what the Old Town Temecula Association has talked about with their members. Their members are services, merchants, and restaurants. And so that would be my public comment, would be that I would at least want them to know that that was heard.
Then I would support the businesses and their desires.
Yeah, so, all right, so from here, we go to our recommendation, I think would be the majority.
Just to make it formal, if we
Yeah.
could have a motion and then a vote, and a motion, a second, and a vote on where you guys stand on the particular issue of future CUPs being required to shut off alcohol sales at midnight.
Can I get a motion to have future CUPs shutting off alcohol sales at midnight?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Can I have all my yeses?
Yes.
All my noes? No. And then any abstains? All right,
So that passes 4-2
Yes.
in the affirmative.
yes.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay, so the next one, because that was A, so now we're moving to B? Okay,
Correct.
so amend the Old Town Temecula specific plan that we all read this week to include provisions for the Type 90 entertainment venue license.
Yes. All right, we'll get into the Type 90 portion of the presentation. So what is a Type 90? A Type 90 ABC license is a brand-new license, just kicked off January 1st of this year. And what that does, it permits music venues, which is essentially a bar that has live entertainment. There is no food requirement. Type 90s would allow for alcohol sales to include spirits without food service. Alcohol sales are permitted 2 hours prior to and 1 hour after performance, and minors are allowed on the premises. A bit more about the Type 90. Type 90s would require professional booking agents, sound engineers, lighting engineers, promoters, stage managers, security, etc., and plenty of other professionals to put on such entertainment. Another requirement is the performers must be paid and tickets must be sold. No free shows are permitted. A little bit on the historical alcohol direction. Previous CUP approvals were focused on food service with alcohol, restaurants and not bars. And then a recap from the 2 meetings we had. The majority direction was to allow for 2 Type 90 establishments in Old Town's downtown core district. And then this completes the Type 90 portion of the presentation, and staff is prepared for questions.
Well, that was quick and very straightforward. Thank you.
Try to keep it.
Do I have any questions from my committee?
Sorry, I don't mean to have a question for every single one, but
No, we appreciate it, honestly.
can you give me an example of a current business that has this? I'm guessing like Old Town Blues Club, would that be one that currently has this type of license?
Yeah, so no one has this type of license.
No one has it.
It's brand new. It's a new alcohol license type created by the state, effective just this year. It was brought to our attention by members of the community who would like to get a Type 90.
So we have businesses currently wanting this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so what we did is we brought that to the joint meeting of the PC and CC, and we talked about it. And well, I don't think anyone is opposed to a music venue. That's great. The issue, at least from the staff level when we did our analysis, was more about the details of what was allowed. And the issue is, historically, CUPs for alcohol have gone with restaurants, food service, right? When those mentioned before. This requires no food service. So it's a music venue, which is great, but then it operates a bar as part of its business operations. So the important part here for staff was not to say that we don't support Type 90s, is that we don't want every business in Old Town seeking a Type 90, and then we don't have any restaurants anymore, right? So that's where the idea for the limit of 2, and it makes sense, right? How many music venues can Old Town really support? Like true music venues. It could probably support a lot of bars, but music venues, probably less. And that's just on the demand for the actual shows, but also the parking issue that comes. So right now in the Old Town specific plan, special event centers are not allowed. It's just prohibited, and that's because of parking, right? You have an influx, a large number of people all at once to a specific spot in Old Town. It's gonna, there are parking concerns with that. That's why it's not allowed. So this really would act as a sort of event center, and so the limiting it to 2 there's still going to be a parking concern, but it won't be an unlimited parking concern. So that's where this proposal came from, is to say, hey, listen, this is a good idea on paper. it's a little bit of a departure from what has been historically approved, but we need to maybe kind of like put some guardrails around it so it doesn't kind of like grow and become something it's not supposed to be.
I'm surprised this came from the state, given the alcohol, no food. Because you even think like at concerts, like even at big concerts, they've got snacks or pretzels or something. And again, to my earlier comment about alcohol consumption, but it's, I think that's interesting.
The state amazes us on a very, constant basis.
Excellent. Any other comments? Sabine?
So type 90, what would their hours be? Are they gonna be midnight or are they gonna be 2 a.m. for closing?
Can you address is it 2 a.m. that they're allowed to go to?
Yes, per ABC law, they're allowed to go 2 a.m. As with most alcohol sales. Our proposal would be to cease at midnight or 11:59 p.m.
Okay, so we could restrict that.
Yeah, and that is actually independent of the conversation you just had. Our proposal was midnight for type 90s specifically because they're a bar and they're supposed to be a music venue. I mean, it's really supposed to be a music venue, not just a bar. So our proposal is midnight.
Okay, and then is there anything stopping them from serving food? Like food, like can you buy a cocktail and a bag of Cheetos?
Nothing
Or-
stopping them from doing that, no,
Okay, so they could kind of take advantage of that if they wanted to.
if they wanted to.
And then are there any capacity limits that would be imposed on these businesses?
Yeah, so the building code has occupancy limits, so whatever the building official and the fire marshal determine is the max occupancy for that space would be their max occupancy. And
Okay.
that goes for every single business.
Okay, and then last one was just if we're going to have extra people around here just drinking, no food, is it possible to also increase parking but also increase DUI checkpoints?
I mean, that's always a possibility. We work on that in conjunction with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, and they have a rotating kind of process for that. But, if we hear that there's a desire to have more DUI checkpoints in Old Town, we'll certainly bring that up with them.
Yes, because I've lived here for nearly 2 years, and I think there's only been one. And the things I've seen working in a restaurant, working late at night, there should be more. Especially if there's going to be a lot of drinking with no food consumption.
Duly noted.
And that will be it for me.
I think Scott had one more question.
I just had one follow-up based on that. Would an event like what Stampede did last summer would that be something that would be under this 90?
No, it wouldn't. That's a special circumstance. They have an agreement with the city that dates back to the early 90s that allows them to have 2 events per year in that parking lot. So it's going back way, way, way back. That's a really great deal for them, and that's how they're allowed to have that event.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Rebecca.
Did the wrong thing. I shut off my PC and
No, it's got to turn green. There you go.
okay, I hit it twice. Okay. I have a concern also about serving alcohol with no food. I also have a problem with a lot of alcohol consumption with minors, because I understand that there are zones in which you can't have minors come if you're serving alcohol. So I'm unclear on that, so I guess that's a question. Thank you.
This specific ABC license type deviates from the standard of where you are not allowed to have minors in establishments such as this, but a type 90 is different, and it specifically includes provisions to allow minors on the premises.
That's a state standard, not a city standard.
It sounds like not something that Temecula would want because of those 2 items, because of the not asking food to be served and allowing minors. So it sounds not very good to me.
Yeah, so that was brought up at the joint meeting as well. And just so you know, I mean, this is policy and code development. So if the committee and ultimately the city decide, yeah, we'll allow these, but we're going to codify that minors aren't allowed, or they're only allowed under certain circumstances, that's all on the table.
I'd just like to say, I like to promote music, I like to promote culture, the arts in Temecula, but when you're throwing the specific alcohol item in there, kind of makes it not work.
Miss Carlene?
I think at the jazz club, a minor to them is allowing someone 18 in. And so to me, that's okay if they're with their parents and they're watching jazz, they happen to like music. That didn't bother me. I think that, is it the city to control the parents, or is it the parents to control what they do with the minor child and where they take them? You know, I have known some parents that shouldn't be parents, and I have taken a lot of responsibility in my life because I have known them. But I know that the Old Town Jazz Club, I haven't been there, but I've heard good things about the operation. They're the only one right now asking it. To run and operate a kitchen is horrendously expensive. Not only to build it and meet, but to jump through all the hoops of health and safety, fire, EMWD. And so if they can have a venue that they can operate, there are a lot of places around, the community theater, for example, that take children, don't serve food. They have some available, snacks, but they do sell alcohol. And people are, I believe, my view of it, is they're safe with that. For the Old Town Jazz Club to be trying for this for over a year, my hat's off to them, and I give it to them without further delay. You know, yes, get your safety standards and parameters in place, but you know, when it comes to enforcing alcohol and noise, a lot of landlords can take responsibility as well. I know in the leases that we have in our commercial buildings, including 2 of them in Old Town, we have noise provisions. We have, you can't do anything illegal provisions. So if the business is repeatedly thumbing their nose at the city, to me, the landlord can step in and say, you're in default of your lease, and I'm terminating your lease. Of course, there's a battle ahead, but there'll be a battle with everything. But also ABC, you can call ABC and say, this business is a frequent problem. Anyway, I think that I'm in favor of the 90.
Thank you. Scott has one more question, and then did I already ask for public comment on this one? I did not, right? Okay, so Scott
We haven't
asked.
really, we're kind of melding together the questions and comment.
Got it.
period,
Okay, I
which is
did.
okay. We're going to get better at this.
I'm
but,
going to get better at
yeah.
it.
So if you want to do that now, then go
No,
ahead.
Scott had one more question.
One more question, okay.
Sorry, I just had a follow-up. So what would change with Old Town Jazz Club? Like, I've been there many times. They do an awesome operation. They serve alcohol. They do a great job. Why do they need a 90 from what they have today?
Right now, they have to serve food.
Right now, they have to serve food. Okay,
That's
and they have a very limited food and snacks. Like, they don't have to put in a whole kitchen. Like, you know, you go out to the wineries, most of our wineries, or many of our wineries, don't have a kitchen, but they have a refrigerator, and they buy, you know, cheese and charcuterie from other people, so there's...
And the other big factor is they don't serve alcohol. They serve beer and wine.
Oh, beer and wine,
Beer
I'm
and
sorry.
wine.
Okay.
They're a restaurant by right with beer and wine.
So
They
they're-
want alcohol.
They're looking for this 90 to serve alcohol. Okay, got it. Thank you.
I was going to say that too. It's actually, they do serve beer and wine. My only question to staff is, they have been allowed in the past to partner with a local restaurant that delivered food for them. Will that would still be an option for them if they wanted to do that? So we wouldn't prohibit them from like having pizza delivered in or something like that if they wanted to do that.
No, they're doing that now.
I know, that's why I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you so much. Stop it. Public comment.
We have not received any, but for anyone in the audience, we do have request to speak forms at the table outside, and I also have some up here, and we have received none. Thank you.
I'm waiting. Okay, no. All right, so no public comment. I'll ask for discussion. I'll start with Carlene this time. Carlene, comment.
When I Yelp, and I Yelped bars in Temecula, and several of them showed up, but only really 6 or 7 stayed open past midnight. Old Town is a very unique place, and there is a concentration of alcohol components and services that are not anywhere else. You might have one or two in a shopping center. So therefore, our problems are fairly unique, and I can understand the concerns and why you're wanting to implement fair and reasonable parameters to make it more manageable. When I saw the figures on what it costs for Metro Fire and other services to service Old Town, and I saw then what the revenue brought in, there was about a $2 million or $1,007 gap in that. But owning residences in Old Town, I know that we need them there sometimes at night. Fire alarms go off. People have heart attacks. I might be trying to get a tenant out that's resisting. I've had to do that, and I had to call for police and sheriff support to get them out. So I don't think all the costs in there are for the bars and the restaurants. So I was wondering, what is the percentage? You know, what would they, if we had no bars or restaurants in Old Town, what would be the cost to service the public? So that was just, I have a lot of notes, but I don't remember it all. But there's a big homeless problem, and I would imagine that they're called for homeless help. I know that in the middle of the night, we will have a homeless break into our buildings that we have to have help in escorting out. So anyway, that's just, that percentage to me, I'd like a little better definition of it. Thank you.
Scott, on the type 90 license.
So regarding 90, I mean, I'm not for 90 from the standpoint of the food element alone. However, in addressing like Old Town, again, I think they run a great business. Is there some other option outside of 90 that they could get an alcohol permit, or would it be them applying for a CUP to get?
Yeah, so technically, bars are in the use matrix for the Old Town specific plan. Historically, they've never been supported by the Planning Commission or the City Council. We have one, it was approved a long time ago. So there is an avenue to do that. It's just that that's never been supported by the Planning Commission or City Council. So they would have to get a CUP to be a bar, and then they would have to get an entertainment license to have the music. So it would functionally be the same thing, but under a different license, both at ABC and at the city.
Got it. That makes sense, because I think they are a responsible organization, but I don't support the 90 based on just the food element alone.
Rebecca?
Well, just as a comment, I think you know that I don't support the 90. I don't know, I was going to hold back until we had a...
I don't have any questions or anything, but I am in support of the type 90 as is moving forward.
Sabine?
I think a pilot program for the Type 90 is really good. One concern, though, I would have is these businesses that are applying for a Type 90, are they pre-established businesses in Old Town? There's no new businesses trying to move in with a Type 90?
Could be either or.
Could be either or. Would we try to strictly approve pre-established businesses for the Type 90?
Unfortunately, there's no way for us to do that. So one of the things that will be under consideration if this does move forward, the City Council does approve this change, would be a selection process. Making some assumptions, there's only 2 allowed in Old Town. Well, how do you choose them? Who gets chosen? That remains to be seen, but that will be either a lottery process or a first come, first served process. We don't know yet, but there will be a legal structure built to deal with that. But it could be existing businesses, or it could be a brand new owner of a business that comes in and wins the lottery and gets one of the permits. So they would still need to go through the process and get the CUP, but they would win the ability to go through that process.
Okay, because I think businesses like Old Town Blues Club, which has a fantastic reputation. I mean, working down here, I've seen kind of the ins and outs of a lot of restaurants. I've never heard any issues from them. They're run by, I mean, very lovely people. Their staff is fantastic. That's the kind of business I would like to see at Type 90, because I think, quite frankly, at this point, they kind of deserve it.
All right, thank you. So mine is, I think that bumpers are always a good idea when something's brand new. I do like the idea of just allowing two, because you're absolutely right. Infrastructurally, we can't support the parking, we can't support Metro, we can't support all of that. So I think having two would be great. You know, food is always thing. I do like my spirits also, but I also like to munch with it. So sometimes you will see me have pretzels in my purse or something because I think it does help. But they, you know, as long as you're a responsible business owner, and I know Old Town's Blues Club is one of the ones that is really wanting this. They've always been so responsible, and I think that they deserve the opportunity. But again, with bumpers, just like what everyone here is saying, with bumpers. But that would be what I think. Again, I think this would be a really great example of us needing an Uber and a Lyft, because in other cities, they do have areas where after a concert, you go pick up in a certain spot. And I think, again, if we're thinking about doing something like this, we really, that needs to be top of mind, that we have a place for these people, because they will Uber in to the concert and they'll Uber out for the concert, and that would be very important to have. I also think this is good for the restaurants, because everyone here who goes to a concert, you eat first, and then you go to the concert for a couple of hours. So I don't think that that's ever going to change. That is just the way we do it. And sometimes we go eat after the concert. So I think that is already engineered into it. Anybody who has been to concerts or music venues. We do it before and we do it after. So I'm not so concerned about the food, because people who do it take responsibility for themselves and they fill their bellies. And I don't want to take responsibility for that. That should be on them. So, all right. So right now, any comments from you guys?
Yeah, I have, so there's three things I want to get a vote on here, because
Yes.
there's kind of three things. The first would be yes, no, 2 permits.
Got it.
And we can get to that, but then yes, no, closing time midnight. And then yes, no, minors or minors with specific conditions. I want to get votes on all three of those, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. So thank you for telling me that in that order. All right. So the first one, may I get a motion for allowing 2 Type 90s in Old Town? All my yes. Everyone with a yes?
But we need a motion in a second.
Oh, sorry. We
Yeah.
had a motion. Who got the motion? Did anyone motion? Oh, somebody motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Perfect. Thank you. Now can I have votes? Start down there.
Oh, aye.
Go.
Sorry. So for type 2, I would vote yes. For 2 of them, sorry.
Brooke.
Yes.
Can we?
No, let's do them one at a time.
One at a
yeah.
time, and each person.
Yes, let's
Okay.
do a voice vote from each person,
Yep.
please. Thank
Voice
you.
vote from each person.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Any no, oh, she already did. Any abstains? All right.
So the yes vote to allow for 2 permits, 2 Type 90 permits, passes.
Yes, that is correct. All right, let's do the midnight closing for this Type 90.
Yes.
Can I get a motion for a midnight closing on a Type 90?
I'll make a motion.
A second? Perfect. Can I get a vote, a voice vote again? I'll start down there.
I vote yes for a midnight closing.
Yes.
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 Yes for midnight closing.
Yes.
All right, there are no no's, there are no abstains, so we can move forward.
Yes. Then the issue of minors.
And then the last one, can I make, and minors, okay, so can I have a motion for allowing minors on the Type 90? Let's start.
I think he wants a motion with certain stipulations.
Well, yes, I want a motion from someone that, it could say whatever you want it to say, but something like either no minors or minors. And, you don't have to come up with the specifics. You could say allow minors, but with conditions. And then we have things we're working on to present to the planning commission that would be kind of some parameters around minors attending these facilities.
So you have the conditions.
Yeah, we'll present specific conditions, if that's, you know, what you want us to do. We'll present specific conditions to the planning commission and city council.
Excellent. Can I have a motion?
I'll provide a motion. I'll present a motion for yes, minors with conditions.
I'll second that.
All right, let's start down Sabine again.
I would vote yes for minors with conditions.
Yes for minors plus conditions.
Yes.
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 All right, so looks like we're moving forward on that one.
Yeah, that motion carries.
Yes.
So just to recap, it's a yes on all of them, so.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the last one. C, amend the Old Town Temecula specific plan to implement a 1-year pilot program for outdoor live entertainment temporary use permits.
Presentation's coming up here in a quick second. There we go. Okay, so we're going to be discussing outdoor live entertainment in Old Town. Currently, the Old Town specific plan does not allow for permanent outdoor live entertainment. So everyone's aware there are 3 grandfathered CUPs that currently allow for outdoor live entertainment. Such CUPs would be unchanged. And then kind of the reason why we have no entertainment in Old Town, outdoor entertainment in Old Town, we had a lot of noise complaints from residents in Old Town and across the I-15 freeway, Rancho Highlands area, give or take. During the development of the specific plan, we had 40+ meetings, and the community reflected a desire for indoor entertainment only, partially based on the noise concerns of the residents. As previously mentioned, currently Old Town specific plan prohibits outdoor entertainment. It does permit indoor entertainment only. And then again, we go over the noise complaints for the existing CUPs on the 40+ meetings during the SP's development. And during the joint meeting of the Planning Commission City Council, their policy direction was for staff to research and bring back a proposal for a trial outdoor live entertainment program in Old Town. The pilot program would allow for outdoor live entertainment. It would be permitted through a temporary use permit. We already have these. This would just be an additional use to that. The program would contain a sunset clause to automatically expire within 1 year after adoption. And the pilot program will be limited to the downtown core district of the Old Town specific plan area. The provisions will be built in with the city council. They can discontinue, extend, or make permanent this program at their discretion. And kind of what staff is thinking for guardrails, we're kind of thinking our intended use is more something like that. A musician kind of by themselves, maybe another person, but we're not intending rock concerts. That is not what we're after. That is not what we're proposing. Some things staff has been discussing is limited hours from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. These we're thinking 7 days per week. Some limits to percussion instruments specifically, bass drums, things like that. And then limit the number of musicians. We don't want to have full bands up there rocking out. So this kind of wraps up the outdoor live entertainment portion, and we'd like to invite questions of staff from the OTLAC.
All right, let's start with questions only, no comments, just questions for the staff.
So my question is, wouldn't these summer concerts plan fall under this?
The summer concerts are city events, so this would be a permission of a private business to have outdoor live entertainment.
Thank you.
Any other questions, no comments?
The question is whether it is given to the musician or the business.
It would be given to the business.
Sabine first, Sabine?
Who is this kind of aimed towards? Like, are there requests for it from certain businesses, or is this like a city-led?
There are requests from businesses to and I can tell you there's a heavy demand.
Okay.
Now, that goes up against the fact that there's noise concerns, right? And that's why it's not permitted, but Yes, there's a demand from the businesses to have outdoor live entertainment at their specific place of business.
So this wouldn't apply to people wanting to be on street corners or doing their own little thing, it is business only?
This would
outdoor.
be an established business.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's a good question.
How many businesses could be doing this at the same time? Is there a limit or, just curious?
As of right now, we haven't developed any specific limitations on the number of businesses or the distances away from each other. I think the kind of theory is this is a pilot program, it's a proposal for a pilot program, and some things need to be learned from experience. And that the bullet about amending it, discontinuing it, or extending it is exactly that. We're going to learn, if this was to go through, there's going to be lessons learned. There's going to be good actors and bad actors. There's going to be, some things are going to emerge as, well, that's too close. You can't have them this close together, or you can't have this many, or whatever. We'll learn a lot from just the pilot program. That's why it's set up as a pilot program, because if it is, it's not feasible to have this much outdoor live entertainment, it can just be, it can just sunset at the end of a year, or the council can just shut it down at a moment's notice.
Can I speak again, or go ahead?
Yes, go ahead. A question? Yes.
Is there a way to monitor how loud that each individual group is in each location?
Yeah, our code enforcement team uses a decibel reader and can read from the property line how loud it is.
Thank you.
Will we be moving that decibel meter? No, correct? Because right now, isn't it set to have live?
Well, so the noise ordinance that's established at the city won't work for this program, right? So the limit of noise that's established in that ordinance, it's too low for this kind of program. So we would have to create some kind of exception or allowance to allow for a higher decibel reading.
And the only other question I had was, it would really be only for places that have already established patios, because we're not saying that they're now going to be able to move outside and put tables or anything. They really should have already had patios within their existing space to allow this.
Well, not necessarily, just as long as they're on their property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for staff? So now would be a good time if we want to talk about it, if there's any questions for each other, any deliberations, go ahead.
Any comments from the community?
Sorry, I forgot.
I know there's no one here, but we have to
Okay,
get it
just
on
in
the
case,
record.
sorry. Any public comments?
We have received none.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we can talk.
As the historian here in this group, I just want to remind everybody that this has been a music destination in times past. In fact, there was a voting proposition, like I think it was in 1996 for Zev Buffman's project. He wanted to have Temecula become a music destination, the Branson of the West. And we actually voted in favor by a small margin, but the funding never came through, so it didn't happen. I see some people nodding, they remember that. Also, in reviewing those 5 hours of joint meetings between the Planning Commission and the City Council members, our now Mayor Stewart mentioned the hot summer nights that used to be a wonderful event in Old Town. And if we could bring back something like that, I would be hugely in favor of it. It wasn't conflicting music, it wasn't overly loud music. There were musicians literally every half block. And it was wonderful to come down and stroll in Temecula in the summertime on a warm evening and have music everywhere, and good music. We also used to have, I think it was a bluegrass festival that brought out people to every street corner. And, this is part of the character of Temecula that we can bring back. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Rebecca Scott?
I really like the idea. One of the biggest things that you put in there is the time limits. One thing that I think all of us need to be mindful of is, as I look out my office window every day, there's a huge amount of construction, and we're gonna, triple or quadruple the amount of people that will be living in Old Town with the Altair development. And something like this, I think, is a great advantage. I love the music, but I think the timing is gonna be the very key element of that. And I think closing that down at 9 p.m. is awesome, and because there's gonna be a lot more noise complaints, because guess what? It's gonna waft right up to the mountains.
Go ahead, Carlene.
This again falls into my arena of helping businesses survive. There's so much competition out there. And this actually is a provision in my lease, in my buildings. Tenants shall also have the right to offer soft indoor and outdoor music to its customers to play during business hours, but no later than 9 p.m. for the exterior music. Said music is intended to be background ambiance music so as not to interfere with the conversations of diners or tenants, guests, or local residents.
Thank you. Any other comments? Brooke?
I concur with Scott and Carlene as well. I think the 9 p.m. is fantastic. Also, as a patron of Old Town, I love the outdoor music, very much in favor of this.
Okay, perfect. Sabina?
Also very much in favor of it. I also love the time limit. I think 9 o'clock is a great time. I think we've seen what kind of happens with the later music. It's unfortunately not uncommon for me to be awake at 1 a.m. listening to music.
Yeah.
But I would love to see more music, but yeah, with that little cap on it.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just want to make sure it's very clear, there's already provisions in certain CPs for indoor live entertainment, right? So this doesn't affect that in any way. And the music you're hearing, it's still subject to the noise ordinance, and that could potentially be a code enforcement issue if you can hear it inside your apartment at 1 a.m. So.
Yes, I look over beer and wine garden. I sleep with.
Excuse me, can you turn on your mic for the record?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Thanks, Denise.
Our building backs up to the beer and wine garden, and they are allowed to stay open late and play the music. And we get a lot of problems with, or complaints about the noise.
Yeah, part of it is I think it echoes badly right there. There's those 4 buildings and the concrete parking lot. But I sleep with a TV and 2 fans on, and I was awake just the other night.
Yeah, no, I can tell you, that's one of the 3 grandfathered allowed to have a band outdoors, and was one of the primary establishments that led to the current specific plan prohibiting outdoor live entertainment. So that's the history on that, and a lot of our complaints that were born from Old Town were from your building, from your tenants from your building. So, I mean, that's just the history of the matter. Yeah.
All right, I think I love that we're considering our pilot program, because I know it's been being asked in Old Town Temecula for a long, long time. I think if you give them a pilot program for a year, I think the businesses will be very respectful of that, because they're not going to want you to take it away. And I think that will be our message to them, is they're letting you have what you want. Don't get it taken away. Make sure you follow the rules, make sure that we're doing everything right, and at 9 a.m. we shut it down. And I do like that. I always think everything should have bumpers in the very beginning, and you can grow your bumpers, you can shrink your bumpers, but you need to at least put it in there and give it a good go. Any other comments? All right. So I think now we move to, I need a motion.
Yeah, one thing, can you put
Yes.
the slide back up that just has some of those parameters on it for our proposal? Just so, as you're crafting a motion, just for the record, this is kind of what, if you were to make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation, these would be the items. Ready for a motion?
All right, can I get a motion to move forward with the staff recommendation?
I'll make a motion to move forward with staff recommendations.
I'll second it.
All right, let's go down the line. Sabina?
I would vote yes.
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 Yes. All right, so
Very good.
motion carries.
We're good.
Items for future meetings.
This would be the committee members.
Yes, do we have any, oh, thank you, sorry.
Yeah.
Do we have any items that we want to speak about on the next, any items for future meetings that we want to talk about?
And if you don't have anything, it's okay. We have plenty of things to bring you. It's just a placeholder
Okay,
on the agenda. If there was something that you really wanted to bring up, you say, hey, to tell staff, hey, we want to bring this up. One thing we are going to bring forward to you in the future related to this is basically a little policy, so that not everything can just get thrown on the agenda. You'll bring something up, and then you'll all vote, yes, we want staff to spend time working on that. Very similar to what the council does, so.
excellent. Can I throw one thing on there? Eventually, maybe in the future, is signage in Old Town. I know that is already on, I think, one of our lists that we talked about.
Yeah, that'll be back before you guys very shortly.
Okay, and parking, of course, will be there too.
Of course. Just as a reminder, we had so many things to bring forward this meeting, we actually had to cut almost all of them off, because you can see this conversation took a long time. I hope you guys are ready, because there's a lot of stuff that we have to talk to you about.
We are ready. Scott,
Do they
if you had
involve
some.
5 hours of video too?
No, I sat in those 5 hours. Go ahead, Scott.
So I'd like to put funding sources on there. I know we talked a little bit in our first meeting about parking as a funding source, but I want to look at funding sources for marketing Old Town. I think there's a great need to specifically market Old Town to both tourists and residents, and want to look for funding sources for that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think that if there's any, yes.
If it's okay with you. I just want to say I appreciate this conversation very much. It's been a long time coming for this body to get put into action, and I think this conversation, the way you all dove into it, is exactly what we were hoping at the city that would happen, and I appreciate all of your perspectives, and it's going to help tremendously as we move forward, so thank you.
I would also say that though at first I choked on the 5 hours of video, the thought of it, it was so helpful in making decisions today easier to make with that knowledge. And so if there was 5 hours of videos on each one, I'd listen, because it was very informative. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Luckily, there won't be.
Thank you, because I usually have to sit in those meetings too. I appreciate that. All right, well, thank you, and I appreciate everybody here for having actually went through those 5 hours, because they did. They texted me, called me, and said, we watched it all. So I appreciate that so much. And I think we can adjourn. All right, meeting adjourned.